of the things I want more than anything else is to live a fruitful life. I want the output of my life to really matter. I want my life to be something that is life-giving to others. And any good farmer knows that in order for a tree to produce good fruit, it needs to constantly receive good nourishment. And that's true for people too. And with our nourishment, it's all a matter of what we allow to influence our hearts and our minds. And in today's reading in Psalm 1 and 2, Psalm 1 verse 1 says that the fruitful life, the person who lives a fruitful life, is someone who doesn't allow himself to be influenced by the mindsets of the sinful world around him. Someone who doesn't live in the same way or for the same purposes as the sinful world around him. Instead, he says in verse 2, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates both day and night. In other words, the fruitful life is one that is constantly nourished by and deeply rooted and firmly rooted in the truth of God's Word. Well, that sounds a lot like what the Apostle Paul says in Romans 12. Do not be conformed to this world, but instead be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And when we do that, Psalm 1 promises, we will be like a tree that produces fruit in every season. Now, he doesn't say that you'll notice the fruit in every season, but it promises that God will never stop being God. Even when things get tough, even when they're very difficult, his presence in us will never stop working in the process of producing the fruit in our lives that he desires. That's what he means in verse 3 when he says, and in whatever he does, he prospers. He's not talking about your career goals or your education or your plans to become wealthy and successful. It's the promise of the fruit of a godly life, no matter what's happening around us, because of the work of God and his truth in us and through us. Psalm 2 says that that's true even when the whole world is against us. It says that the kings of the earth oppose God and they oppose God's people. But God's not afraid. It says that he laughs. Do you know why? Because they're not really the kings. He has his own king in place. It says, I have put my son on the throne. The whole world belongs to him. And the psalmist ends in verse 12 by saying that the people of God who take refuge in him, the people who trust their lives completely to him to serve the King of all kings, they are blessed. And what does he mean by blessed? He means fruitful, just like he described blessedness in Psalm 1. Look at the connection here. Psalm 1 began with, how blessed are those whose delight is in the law of the Lord. And now Psalm 2 ends with, how blessed are those who put their complete trust in him. In other words, what we've been saying all along, how blessed are those who know that God is God and who surrender to him and simply trust God to be God.